I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call.
We can, but it appears that Ken Reinhardt is the only one absent. He did send me an email and said that he's under the weather and didn't want to share that with anyone, so. Other than that, everyone else is in attendance. So we've got a couple guests. Do you folks, are you just here to participate or to engage, or where are we at?
We are new inspector.
Okay.
I am here to record the video.
Okay.
Cool.
And I see we have a new zoning map, so.
Yeah, gotta get it hung up.
So who has that digital file now?
I think that's by the GIS system.
From the
now
county?
That we work with the county, I believe is what I understood, is it is not on anybody's personal computer anymore.
Right.
You log in.
We can get it where?
You can either look at it on the Paulding County Auditor's website.
Okay, it is on.
And you can look at the zoning, you can turn on the zoning, turn off the zoning on their website in the layers. And also, Mr. Davis sent out a link that you can also click on that is just for the Village of Antwerp. And it looks basically the same, but I think you can turn on water lines and sewer lines too,
Awesome.
I believe.
Yeah. I know they've been doing a lot of work on the GIS stuff, so.
It needs to be.
And I knew that we had that file on a personal computer, so I was glad to see
That,
it.
yeah, I don't believe it's where, I think it was in AutoCAD before or something like that. It's no longer that way.
Correct.
Which is,
Correct.
it's where it needs to be.
So, Daniel, I might ask, so we have an approved signed copy of that somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know where.
Yeah,
Before we kind of grace that as being, you know, the legend, put it on your to-do list just to go through and compare that doggone thing.
Yeah.
And make sure, you know, because this is,
Yeah.
you know, an outside group that they took our map and did the best they could.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chances are it's fine, but
You wanna
let's
bring it
make
up
sure
to
that
you?
it's.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I just didn't know if he had it up on the website or not yet.
Yeah.
It looks like it is. Because it did have all those crazy lines and whatnot on it, didn't it?
Yeah, it was very hard to see some of the detail in
Yeah.
there.
It looks
this
like
is
towers
great, it's
now.
got the street,
It looks like
everything's
it's
marked on
updated.
it. This is good.
Well, and that was the intent when we had put that together, and it
Yeah,
just,
but it was so tiny.
it
you
never
couldn't
made it to the
read
top of the
and-
list.
yeah.
Okay.
Mark, when you talked about that, wanting it, originally it sounded like you wanted it in the hall. Is that where you want it hung?
It doesn't matter where it is to me, just so
Okay.
long as we
I
have it
didn't
as a
know
reference
whether-
point,
Okay, great.
you know.
Kevin
Ideally in
just-
this room, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, Kevin told
we
me
could
there's
hang it
3
right
of
up
them.
over here.
We printed that, Mr. Davis printed 3.
Okay.
One would go in here, one would go in the hall,
Oh,
and
okay,
one
you
would go
didn't tell
down
me
at
you
the other
did that.
building at the administrator's office. That's my understanding from.
I think
Okay,
he's already
great.
got his hung post on the wall.
Okay.
Okay.
We were looking at it the other day.
Okay. Okay, so our first order of business is review and approve or comment on the minutes from the prior meeting. Does everyone have the agenda? Did they
I've got
print
it.
it? Here, I got it printed. I printed a couple extra. You need one, Jan? Yeah, so Brian had someone make this up. I went through and made a number of comments and corrections and things. So if there's any other additional comments or concern, if not, we'll open for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Easy peasy. Okay, so we already had the personal introduction. So Daniel, how about if you kind of, or maybe Jan, if to kind of give us a little perspective on background, kind of where we're going, concerns, things of that nature that are relevant for this group to be taken into consideration.
Sure. So, I own a home inspection company. It's called 4 County Home Inspections. That's my full-time job. So I have a state license. We look at a couple hundred houses a year, primarily for somebody selling or buying a house. We'll go in and look at it before. So that's kind of how it started. I was a firefighter paramedic for 10 years. So at my time in Wasion, I was their inspector for a while. I sat on their zoning board of appeals. I do Crane Township zoning now for Cecil. And I guess I got hooked up with Tim Copsey doing, working with the county as far as going to look at, vacant properties to see if it's worth trying to save, land bank stuff essentially. And then this came up and they said, hey, you want to do this? I said, sure. But, yeah.
So are you working with Payne at all? I thought I heard somewhere along the way you were.
I think somebody contacted me for Payne, but I don't think anything's gone through yet.
Okay.
And Tim and I have talked about and this, obviously each, township and or village is probably gonna wanna have their own, but I think eventually they're wanting a county-wide inspector to kind of, look at, doing the different stuff that they need done.
Right.
So, I have the ability to, the one thing that Brian and I talked about that we probably don't want to do or shouldn't be doing is doing certificate of occupancy permits, for residential housing, because it's like a state level certificate, and I don't think that even if we wrote up our own certificate of occupancy, I'm not a licensed electrician, HVAC, so I can't go in and say, hey, this is, good.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at a house and a new build and say, okay, they did this well, they did that well, but that was one thing that we talked about. Other than that,
so that's going to quickly become an action item, right? So within our zoning, we say that you will have this, right?
for
for construction.
New builds.
We have, I'd have to go back through it. So, whether this is an addition or a new build, I'd have to go back through it. But right now, we have that written into our zoning ordinance that you have to have
a
certificate of occupancy. We don't even have one, right? So, and I don't disagree with you about taking that out of our stuff, but it's in there, so it would be something that should be high on our list of things to do,
Sure.
right? So,
to my knowledge, the Bowling Green, the building permit office of Bowling Green that deals with that stuff, if we even called them and said, hey, we want a certificate of occupancy for a residential, I don't even think they'd come out. I don't know if they would even do anything. They may, I guess I would have to get with them on that, but I am not real familiar or aware of any municipalities that issue certificate of occupancy for residential stuff. If we want to keep it on there, we're gonna have to find a state level entity that can do it. Because if we do it, I guess it depends on what's written in our code, but it's not a real certificate of occupancy. It would just be
well, if it's going to be flim-flam, then.
Well, yeah, that's.
What's the point? So,
right.
And we don't have to solve this today, but that's kind of why I wanted you to just have a little bit of discussion.
Yeah.
To say, let's look at any gaping opportunities for improvement. So
I would say either we get rid of it or the village finds a local electrician, local HVAC company that's willing to go in and inspect it for whatever the code is, currently, and I don't know, do you do HVAC? What's your opinion on all that?
Nobody around here does it, but Fort Wayne,
Allen County is, they're pretty strict on all that. Each individual trade has an inspection, and
Right.
then you get the, it basically goes through the trades, like you were saying,
Yeah.
and then building inspector, whatever.
If it came down to it and we had, and I know electrical, plumbing, HVAC, if we got the right licensed companies in place that go do their own inspection, then I could probably sign off on a certificate saying it's been inspected by these
all these
entities.
people,
But that, I guess that's up to the village whether we want to do that or not. I mean, I don't.
When did that go on our zoning? Has it been on
It's
there?
been
for a long
hiding
time?
in there, hiding in the weeds for years,
Yeah.
right?
Years.
So the background.
So it's
on-
never been checked, nobody's ever done anything
Yeah,
with
so
it?
the background on our zoning ordinance is that, in the 70s, where there was no internet, right? And so, you couldn't go out, there was no legal Zoom, and, all this stuff. So, somewhere along the way, and I'm not sure, certainly I wasn't involved back then, someone came to the village and brought a set of ordinances to start the village off on something.
Sure.
And this wasn't, it was just something that was borrowed from another village. And oddly enough, Payne started with the same set of ordinances that we have. That's why I was curious. about
Okay.
involved in Payne. Over the years, we have tweaked the ordinances that we have, just to kind of solve problems that came along.
Sure.
I'm sure Payne has done the exact same thing. But, at some point, I would have to, fall back to say, at some point, is it worth just saying, well, let's just stop focusing on all the little things that are in that and maybe fall back and look at something outside of the community for a fresh start? I don't know.
For occupancy?
No, for zoning ordinances, right?
Oh, okay.
So when you look at, Allen County is wide and deep when it comes to all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
I don't think we're prepared to go there. But is there a middle ground that is in much better shape than what we currently have? There's just a lot of gaps in what we have now.
Okay.
Just
Well, a lot too is we've got to stay within Ohio state
right.
code,
Right.
so we can't go to Indiana because codes be conflict. I've got some stuff here off of Lima's website I think we can use.
Finance has got
farther.
some stuff also.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that, you can follow up via email, obviously,
Yeah,
but
I don't think we have to solve that today. I'm just
sure.
From an introductory standpoint, I kind of want you to understand how I feel about this stuff, and that's just me, right? So, but in general, the background on it is we just kind of landed with something that was borrowed, and it's just been kind of tweaked and hornswoggled around for many years, and we don't proclaim to have a great zoning ordinance.
Sure.
So, as you start to get some battle wounds, it might be worth taking some spare time to investigate what are some other things out there
Sure.
in surrounding areas, just like we did with this cost analysis. What's going on in the surrounding areas that might just be a better patchwork than how we're approaching things.
Sure.
So,
I would say the biggest complaint that I always get is nuisance violations. People having junk out, people, so-and-so's got cars parked out back, but as far as the building stuff goes, I'll keep an eye out for it. And I guess you wanna put that on a future meeting, the
Well, we're gonna-
occupancy stuff?
Yeah, we're gonna cover part of that building stuff tonight with this mobile home draft ordinance that we got.
Okay.
That's been a real touchy subject, and I think I've got a workaround here for, I hope we got a
Okay.
workaround. Because I don't want it to be targeted specifically for mobile homes. Because we can do the same thing and we can include houses and garages, and they all fall under the same problem. If they're dilapidated, they're dilapidated. I don't care how new or old they are. And this ordinance here even covers fire damage.
Okay.
The time period to cover it, how it has to be covered, how it has to be dealt with as far as any fines or that, who has the authority. So if we get into the weeds a little more on this, I'll cover that part as we
Okay.
talk about it. But I think that'll cover a lot of this occupancy stuff too,
Right.
because that's usually what happens is the place isn't fit to be occupied. But you don't have to go in and get an occupancy,
Right.
certificate just to know the place, the windows were knocked out and the door fell off.
Right.
It's been that way for 2 months, you can't live there.
Right. Okay. So, do we have
We don't have anything in there to cover that type of thing right
that
now.
kind of nuisance?
Yeah.
Dilapidated, anything?
We've got an ordinance in there on grass, but I don't think, there's nothing in there as far as dilapidated, what,
Okay.
verbiage is to constitute that this is a dilapidated structure.
Okay.
And that's where we kind of come in with these trailers. We had some in the past that's been in bad shape, and it got fixed up, and it was already had problems prior to, so.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's a good start for sure. I mean, because like when I was in Waseon, the city was able to say, okay, you have a vacant building, you've got windows knocked out, you've got graffiti on it, you're in violation of these codes. And then at that point, if they don't comply, then you get the prosecutor and the, police department involved. And I guess after that point, then at least there, they then basically left it up to the courts. There was no, if you don't do this, this happens. It's, if you don't do this, it gets sent to the prosecutor or the court, or, but we can definitely look into that.
Would you like a zoning book printed out for you?
I have one.
Okay.
Yep, I've got one.
Okay.
I've got it on my computer too.
The certificate of occupancy is section 506 and sections 507 is where it talks about that. Matt, did you want me to print you out one? Because you had asked me the other day.
You sent me that, and like I said, I haven't had time to,
If you want it printed, I'll send it right there.
Yeah, you're talking, what, 70 pages?
yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, that's
It's
not, he
35
put it on his computer, he look a lot easier.
I'll talk with you about it.
Okay.
See what's going to be best.
Okay. Just from an introductory standpoint, Jan, do you or Bill have anything to add to the conversation before we move into our items to be discussed?
Nope, I'd like to welcome you, hopefully everything goes smooth for all of us.
Yep.
Do we have an email? Did you include him in that email? I didn't pay
Yes.
attention. Okay, so we have your email on there.
He just took over.
It's the old email.
Okay.
For whatever reason,
Zoning at
I
Network Village.
Brian said it has his name on it when I send an email out, and so I got to figure that out why it's doing that. But I am getting the emails.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was in that thread of the email I sent him.
Mhm.
So. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is marijuana facilities, and so this was something that was put on the agenda from Gabe for the January meeting, and I don't truly understand what it is we were intended to accomplish with that. So I just kind of wanted to start by saying, do we know why that made the agenda and what it is we need to address here?
Well, the reason it made the agenda, it come before city council first, and council did an emergency reading on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they voted on it, and it passed by 3-2. And then later on, they decided that ordinance had to have a 3/4 majority vote, so it didn't actually pass.
Okay.
Because it didn't have a public hearing prior to or whatever, we bypassed that. So then the council decided to send it back to the zoning, to where we could either review it or decide what to do with it. And then if we wanted to move forward with it, we could send it back and it become a public hearing and all that stuff. So where we're at right now, I talked to a few of the councilmen, and right now the consensus stays pretty much the same as what it was. So I think in our best interest, we should probably just table this indefinitely until something changes, you know, maybe the state law has changed to where it becomes an issue for downtown. My concern with this was I didn't want to end up like Canton, Michigan, have 4 dispensaries in downtown Antwerp.
Right.
That was what I was wanting to hopefully delay, but right now, I don't think we've got the votes to change it, so I would recommend tabling it, and then later on, if something happens, then we can bring it back up and move forward with it.
So we've been kind of working on this annual cycle of identifying and making revisions to this ordinance book. And, you know, just accumulate those throughout the year and then submit them to council once a year. And go through, you know, the whole nonsense of bringing that to life. So I guess, Bill, is this something that you think we want to add to the zoning book? You know, what we've got to do is include the verbiage that identifies permitted occupancies or permitted business types by category, right? So
Yeah.
if we just add that to the B2 or wherever it is we think we need to add it, and, you know, specify the exemptions in B1 and I2 or whatever it is that we feel like needs to be done, I mean, would that suffice and we wouldn't even need the ordinance?
Well, I think either way it would have to be voted on, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We put it
Yeah.
into our annual review packet,
Right.
right? So, you know, it'd go through this committee and we'd kind of hammer it out. And then it would go through, you know, the normal annual process of the 3 readings and the
Yeah.
public hearing and all that. So,
Yeah, we can stick it in there. I don't think it's gonna make it as a standalone ordinance as far as what it is.
well, and ultimately a standalone ordinance that's sitting in the village pile that doesn't make it into the book makes it difficult to work with for other people in the future, right? So when somebody is trying to bring a dispensary to the village, and this is just kind of sitting off in the village ordinances, and these folks are looking in our zoning ordinance for guidance, and there's no mention, they're gonna make missteps or waste time trying to go into a B1 district, and they're not allowed, right? So I think it'd be a lot cleaner, honestly, if when we do these things, that somehow we make sure that the zoning ordinance book
And that would probably be maybe.
stays coordinated to these pop-up ordinances that come along.
So we don't currently have anything regarding dispensaries?
No. So we talk about, you know, different types of, let's say, illicit businesses,
Mhm.
but, you know, that wasn't on the radar when this
Okay.
stuff was created.
Right.
You know, I think we talk about alcohol.
Oh, so
and-
this is the one that we're trying to,
That's the one that got tabled.
okay, this is a draft though?
Yep, that is the actual ordinance. That was signed and voted on the first time.
And the problem with this was what?
We didn't get a 3/4 majority vote, to pass it through
Make it
council.
an emergency.
Oh, okay.
And that's the area that dispensary can be.
Yeah, that ordinance there restricts it from complete downtown.
Downtown
B1
area.
business district, and the I2, which is what the agricultural industrial area, which would include auto parts store, VFW hall. See, those are not in downtown, they're just outside the downtown district. I think the old laundromat was inside downtown, but those other ones, so they couldn't come around by the VFW hall and turn it into dispensaries. You know.
Where is the depot at? What is that right now zoned as what?
Is that where they're trying to put one in?
Depot is B2, I think.
No, the depot's B1, and that was part of why I wasn't sure if that's what brought this to our agenda, because, you know, I don't have a problem with that ordinance and trying to keep these guys out of the downtown district, but somehow
See what?
this,
Yeah, they're actually grandfathered in, because they're there ahead of this ordinance
Well,
when it was passed, so that
but I'm
was.
just saying, it just seems
Oh,
odd to
okay.
me that the depot property is B1. It's absolutely not in the downtown district.
Yeah, I don't know how it got
How did
there.
that sneak in? And I went through my notes when we were doing that map the last time, and that was R1 out there. Somehow
Did it get
it,
changed when
somehow
they
it
moved
just
it?
got snuck in, you know, and I,
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be, I
Did
don't
they
know.
get changed?
not that anybody was trying
or-
to sneak it in, it
Yeah.
just got in there.
When
So-
they moved that out there from,
It used to set up here by the
Uptown.
Oasis, and they moved it. So
No, I
is that-
understand, but I'm saying
Land itself.
the revision copy notes that we were working from to go through and figure all these things out the last time around, that property was R1. Which, you know, a village office
It's gotta
is
be-
perfectly allowed in an R1 setting. You know, it's
Oh,
right
it
in
is.
here. Yeah. Doctor's offices, there's, you know, a whole list of things that are allowed in R1.
So the problem with this ordinance is, I guess what?
Well, we just had 2 council members that didn't vote for it.
Correct.
And that's, I don't know, that's their business.
and it was an emergency
They
meeting.
had one that abstained and one that voted no.
So are they saying that they want to alter this then,
Well, when I talked to the council members, their vote was going to stay the same.
regardless of what this
Whether we
read?
altered that or not, so. Now, whether we can, like Mark says, put it into the verbiage of our zoning, and that'll show up again at the end of the year, and then we can look at it again, that probably might be a good.
Well, I mean, it is a new category of business entity. We've got a great deal of description of business entity types in here as far as allowed and not allowed. And so
And the
I think in order to do this stuff justice, we really should include this somewhere. Now, who falls in what categories, you know, we
Yeah.
can hammer that down, but to just pretend like it doesn't exist is probably not prudent.
Is there a company that's waiting for this to get passed to
No.
come in?
No.
Okay.
Would it have to be done by emergency?
It was to begin with because we were trying to get ahead of the state changing the rules or the laws.
Okay.
Originally, and as far as I know, it's still this way, they're only allowed to be within a mile of each other.
Yeah.
But the state come out and said, well, I think we maybe need to relook that over because we'd like to have a few more dispensaries. I guess it's for more tax dollars.
Right.
I'm not sure, I'm not gonna speculate. So they could possibly change the laws to look like Canton, Michigan. We could end up with 4 of them in downtown if we don't restrict it. That was my feeling.
And the 2 that voted no because they didn't want it downtown or they didn't want it anywhere. What,
That was up to them. We didn't go into that part, that's their business.
they didn't want either.
No, my understanding is it wasn't to restrict them at all. Like,
No restriction within town.
right, because this is going to restrict it from downtown, not to say it had to be in downtown.
Correct.
And so they were saying, no, it's like it could be like a bar, it could be like the gun shop, if I remember the meeting correctly. And that was the comments on
So
that.
this is restricting it from being downtown.
Yes.
And I-2, which is kind of is downtown.
Yeah.
But here again, it's that patchwork approach. So, but nonetheless, you know, that type of entity doesn't exist in our list.
Right.
So,
It should have some, because
you know, it's a new business type that has kind of peculiar little nuance to it. So, at some point, we want to include it in this jargon. Which categories is acceptable? Let's figure that out. But you know, that'd be my thought: is that if there's no burning issue, we just kind of set that aside and let's focus on whatever it is we're going to do for revisions for this year. That we'd be sure to include that subject and get it brought in.
I'm good with
Does that
that.
sound fair?
Yeah, so at least have a category for it.
Right. It's at least defined within a category or something, so. I don't know, do we have?
So to put this into our book, we need an actual category for it, is that what you're saying?
We just need a description for it, so right now we've got this table in our zoning that says, these are all the things, these are all the different types of activities that are defined, and these are all of the areas that you
They're
can do
allowed.
those activities, right? So, you know, if we wanna have a resident office space, you're allowed to do that in a few different
Right.
areas.
And a dispensary is not in here anywhere.
Right, so, you know, pretty sure we
Okay.
talk about bars and things like that. So I mean, this kind of falls in that
So
category.
really, to nail this down, you gotta have that.
I think you can eliminate that and just do this. It serves the same purpose. It just takes a lot more words to do it here. What do you think?
Because all this
Yeah.
is saying is where it's allowed.
Right, which is, that's all that's
Right.
saying.
Okay.
We can do it in a couple tables here.
Yeah, I don't,
We just need to find a good way to describe it or define it here. Dispensary of what, right?
and then this would come
Controlled
into place.
substances, I don't know what the legal jargon needs to be in order to put that in a category that makes sense universally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a retail business, but it's also a very
controlled
most
substance.
retail, yeah, it's
Or
controlled
whatever, I don't
substance.
know. Here again, that's why I say we need to find the right jargon that helps define that over time, or certainly at least in the current time. I don't know what that is.
So how do we go about putting it in?
There's other dispensaries in like Lima, right? And Lima and some other areas like
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
What are they, what is their,
Sherwood's got one.
oh, that's true.
Theirs originally fell under the medical.
Would there,
Now
yes.
they're both. But I don't know what
Would,
Sherwood's.
that would be considered, what is downtown there? I mean, would
Well,
that be
they're actually,
considered?
I would say outside downtown.
Yeah, because they were just
They're on
outside
the other side
there.
of 18.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd have the parking to put something like that downtown.
Well, well, we've had parking, it's the parallel parking, that
Yeah.
consists, well, all downtown has to be.
And these aren't long-term people, I mean, they're just,
In and out.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like the bar.
it's kinda like a pizza shop, right? You go in, you get pizza and you, or good.
Yeah, according to the law, they cannot use that substance on the property of the business, they have to leave,
Right.
so.
They purchase and leave, they don't go in like a bar and set there
Right.
and chew their gummies.
So, yeah, I think you're right, we need to at least get it in that category there, of defining where it is and what it is.
Okay, so the action item would be, I'm just gonna say ignore for the ordinance. Include an annual revision to the ordinances. What?
But we still have to decide whether we're gonna let it downtown, right?
Right.
Where do we do that and when do we do that? Because it can't go back to council until we review it, is that correct?
Right. We have to come up with a solution of whatever that might be.
Right.
Then when we present it to council, that'll be considered the first reading. After the first reading, then it has to be published in the paper 3 consecutive weeks, and then there's a public hearing on it. That's why we have to have our meeting tonight, because we hold the public hearings, and the council only has 14 or 15 days after that public hearing for them to act on it. Otherwise, it doesn't count, we gotta start all over again. So that's why we've got the schedule that we have.
And if it's not an emergency meeting, then,
They would have 3 readings. The first reading, then they'll have a public hearing, then they'll have a second reading, and then the third reading, they'll have it, and then they'll vote on whether to pass it. And any place in those readings, they can make amendments to it, they can do whatever, or they can vote it down, even though we okay it, and we go through the public hearing and nobody contests it, they can still vote it down, just because that's their authority.
Right.
I'm not so sure dispensary, a company, I mean, the ones that I have seen are usually in, not a downtown building, something that has a parking lot, off to its side or back or whatever.
Right.
I don't know that a dispensary coming to Antwerp would want to be downtown anyway.
Right, you can't in Michigan.
Are they all downtown?
Yeah, parallel parking, there's 3 of them downtown, and there's 1 on each end of town. Yeah, that town's half the size of Antwerp. That's what can happen, depending on the laws. I'm not saying it will, and I hope it never does, but it could.
So I guess what do we need to make a decision on today?
Well, I guess the only thing we need to decide today is are we comfortable with just letting this sit basically until the end of 25 before anything truly gets resolved? Because that's when we would submit our revisions.
Well, I say we can't vote on anything today because this meeting was not advertised. The schedule was messed up. We had a first meeting in January, the second Thursday of the month. Well, it got put on the calendar, this month it was the second Thursday, when it's actually the first. So it hasn't been advertised properly. We can try and get all of our ducks in a row, but we can't actually vote on anything specific. But we could, like this, say, okay, yeah, we're gonna work this in next month or this year for sure.
What, the emergency meeting, you're saying you wanted to get ahead of the state or whatever, is that still the case?
Well, it's still the case. Yeah, there's.
So we don't wanna wait.
Well, that's
a
why,
year,
that's why I'm saying,
If it needs something addressed, then we need to address it, I guess, at the next meeting or after we get a little time to,
Right.
another month to look at it and review it. Right?
Yeah, because that law can be changed and we won't know it. They're not gonna notify Antwerp, say, hey, we just changed this law, and now you can get 3 of them.
Right.
And see, they can't put one in downtown, they have to go through the village administrator for the permit first. And then he has to okay it as far, and I don't know what that all includes. As far as I
For
know,
here?
For here, there's no, I don't know if there's any fees involved, I don't have any idea on that. Then he has to fill out the paperwork that they have done the right stuff, and then they have to submit it to the state, and then the state has to approve it. And then they go from there as far as their licensing, whether they've got the right amount of space, whether they've got the legal stuff to do it with, because there's a lot of safety features has to be built into it.
Sure.
Cameras and safes and.
Yeah. I thought he said that there was somebody on the radar that was looking to come to town.
We already, the depot already has the dispensary coming.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not in
That's not
downtown, it's
downtown.
out there at the edge of the town.
Okay, so we do have somebody. Do we have to decide on this for them to continue?
No.
This is specifically for downtown.
Yep.
This is going in, you know where the river stands at?
Yeah.
It's just past that.
Okay.
It's on
That's on the
the
map.
south
there.
side of.
So if we have one coming in already,
Right now it's 1 mile, right?
I
1
think
mile
it's
from
1
the other
mile
one.
radius.
So 1 mile radius. They can't come into
They
the
can't
village.
come in there, yeah.
Unless the laws are
True.
changed.
They'll take the Pasadena building.
so the state says they can't be within 1 mile of each other.
Yeah, as the crow flies.
Okay, and that's why they were trying to approve this to mitigate that,
No.
to
just
keep it in
in case it
writing.
gets changed,
Yeah,
yeah.
I see.
in case they
I
remove
see.
the 1 mile limit,
I see.
because
Okay.
they likely will.
And
Sure.
I felt it's better to get ahead of it than be behind the curve.
Mm-hmm.
But once somebody submits an application to put one in, I don't know if we could even move fast enough to stop it. I don't know what the legalities are on that type of stuff. That's why we were trying to get ahead of the,
Okay.
but we have so many empty buildings down there, if it would ever change, it wouldn't take much. And I hate to see anybody's business be, or their, buildings, but I don't want the kids walking downtown and have being exposed to that kind of situation. And a lot of people say, I'm not going anywhere close to that. And I agree with them, that's their problem. But the business right beside that guy, all of a sudden, he's not getting any business because the person don't want to have anything to do with it. They walk right on by him because, and it's not his fault, but now they're down in business. Well, that was my feelings anyway, trying to protect the downtown businesses. Right or wrong, that's why we have other people to vote. Just because that's the way I think, doesn't mean that's right.
Right.
So if there's one already coming in, and I mean, do we want more than one in Antwerp?
Not really, but
You know,
certainly not downtown,
yeah,
But one could go in, just like the depot, out just outside and.
I feel like that's probably the best place for one.
I would agree.
So,
On the outskirts.
yeah,
In and
Yeah.
out and not,
Yeah.
downtown. If we're gonna have one,
Right.
it'll be not downtown. That's in my mind, I guess.
So so we wanna get this passed then, correct? Is that what we're,
Well, we can come up with some verbiage tonight to add it to that book. We can't vote on it as far
Right.
as that, it would be, but next month we can, and then maybe we can,
so let's say at the next meeting, we'll have something together to, I mean,
Yeah, we gotta figure out how to squish it
I don't
into
think
that
we,
table.
I don't think we sit on it for another year.
No, I don't want.
That's why I wanted to let everybody understand, it's
Yeah.
like, it's gonna be the annual review, we submit those at the end of the year, so.
well, we can submit.
We can submit them anytime, but
But
we generally accumulate
Right.
throughout the year.
And it could be added
Yeah.
without a problem.
We've got two other ones here that are
Might
ordinances
need to.
that's been kicked out of council back to us to look at, and they're on this agenda.
Okay.
So, from a housekeeping standpoint, I'm assuming this is a Word document, I have no idea where it lives.
The what?
To be able to change it.
This, someone has to have revision capability on a Word document,
Oh,
or PDF, you can revise
I have it on
PDFs
my
now,
computer.
As a Word or a PDF?
I'm sure we could turn it into one or the other.
They're both editable anymore, so in the old days you couldn't edit a PDF.
So what does it take for us to put, do we want to pass this, or do we just want to put something in the book that restricts the number of them
I think we just do it in there.
in the
don't you?
book? In order to do that?
Ultimately, it
What's
needs to
your
go in
thought,
here
Bill?
anyway.
That'd be the easiest
Yeah.
if we can do
Yeah,
that.
That way
ultimately,
it's
it needs to
there
be here
now.
anyway, so that as other people come down the
Right.
pike, they don't have to dig through all of our ordinance to find
Right.
that this is
Yeah.
land.
Hey Jan, is that the computer right there? Is that,
For what?
Oh, is that Gabe's old
I
computer?
was just
This is
asking, is
Gabe's
that the
old
administrator's
computer.
computer? Because if it is, it's probably on there.
That is Gabe's old computer.
That's actually a brand new computer because he was using the school computer up until last year.
Amy bought that when COVID
I have the
was going on,
code
so she could work at home.
on here.
To get everything he's
Yeah,
got
I mean,
in
I
there.
have everything digital on here. I can transfer it to Acrobat or yeah, I mean, we can,
Yeah, so
we
you got a
could-
version of Acrobat
Yeah.
that you can edit?
yeah.
Okay.
We just would, how, do we have to vote on adding that? What kind of verbiage, or do we want to deal with that next meeting?
Well, if we can come up with a category for
I was
it.
gonna say, you gotta come up with the verbiage of what is
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah,
From an
we gotta
entity
go-
standpoint, you know, it's not an automobile service station, that's the entity, service type or whatever, so in the world of what that is, I don't know.
Okay.
Do we know?
What is bars and whatever? I mean,
So according to the ordinance, it's listed as a medical marijuana and recreational marijuana
right,
facilities. That's what this ordinance is.
listed under that.
That's what the heading is on this ordinance now. I don't know.
Medical and or recreational marijuana.
Yeah, medical.
Because
So restricting the areas
We're
that
working
medical
on that.
marijuana and recreational
I don't
marijuana
know, we're
facilities may have
recreational right
place.
now.
yeah,
but it could
medical,
change at
yeah,
any
but that's why I
time.
say, could they bring in medical as well?
Well,
Where
that's
they're
what,
at,
what,
The
so this
depot?
also
Yeah.
covers,
'Cause that's what
growers
Sherwood
did.
or
Yeah.
anybody that's, I haven't read all the way through it. It's got some other words for
I saw that. I don't,
dispensaries, labs.
I mean, I don't,
Sherwood started medical and brought in the recreational. So,
Oddly enough, I don't even see anything in here about alcohol sales, you know, like bar or
well, I thought you
or
read
packaged
something earlier.
liquors, you know what I mean? I see something in here, sexually oriented businesses, I do remember having
Yeah, we put that in.
discussed that at one time, but oddly enough, as I read through the list, I don't see anything about bars or alcohol sales. I'm not through completely through the list, but. See, if we're gonna add some description, we may want to take those into consideration.
Well, here, they give a description of dispensary. It's, second paragraph up from the bottom, there's 2 Ohio state codes that it falls under. Which if we put that in there, that would have to be part of it, I would think, in the description, so that it's,
I don't know that we wanna, do we wanna even open the door up to this cultivator and, I mean, where are they gonna cultivate marijuana inside the village?
Can't do it
Well, we don't allow any agricultural.
inside the village
they do that
anyway.
in Michigan.
Okay, so
They
then,
raise it right there in the buildings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cold water. Yeah, you pull in the cold water, you go into the, I think it's a Dairy Queen, there's one right beside it. You upstairs where they cultivate. They raise it right there.
Really?
Yeah, greenhouses.
So we probably need to,
That's why this is in here, because they do raise it right there where they sell it.
well, that would fall under
Okay, so we do allow
agriculture
crop
then, right?
cultivation in B2 and
Oh.
A1.
which is,
So we wouldn't be able to,
We've got some agricultural
oh,
parcels
inside
in the
of town
village.
there.
At least we
It's
did. Maybe we
agriculture.
Down
did away
Canal,
Well,
there's
49
agriculture.
Yeah, 49 Canal, that red
Yeah.
field behind me is agriculture.
Oh, and then also the other way towards the school, Weezy Hens have that farm
Yep. Well, that's,
outside the,
Well, it's
that's
zoned.
B2 there on the other side of 49.
so we need to look
We
at
got
some of that
farmers that
stuff
are
too.
farming on R1 ground. It's not allowed.
Really?
yeah. We're gonna open up a can of worms, aren't we?
Well,
Don't we, or do we?
individuals, it says in the state law, can grow up to 6.
Do we have any?
So where do you put that?
Wheezy Hens cultivating out that by Diamond and Canal?
Diamond
right there?
Drive there, at the end of Diamond Drive,
Yeah, that's.
that field back
That
in
used to
there.
be A1, and we did change it to R1 because we wanted someone to do development. But in the meantime now, you know, although they're grandfathered in because they hadn't been doing it prior, but there's nothing in here to indicate
So
that.
I think they've had it for 20 years.
You're talking about like back
Behind
beyond Allen
Dan comes in
Franklin?
and says, hey,
Into
you
that
can't
little
be cultivating this
Street
crop right next thing you know.
No,
property?
Yeah, that's one of the
That's not
things that I don't know
um,
how you
it'd be
overcome.
next, on the other
You know,
side
within
of
this stuff of
Weber Street.
Oh, back.
and,
crop cultivation should
The
have.
Harmons.
On Cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, what used to be Harmon's
Okay.
addition back in there,
These
Diamond
days are.
Drive.
I know.
Yeah.
something.
That stops,
How that works
Diamond
out
Drive
is
stops and then it turns into a field back here.
Okay.
Doug Billman lives back in there.
Yeah.
And
So,
just to
On
the
beyond them,
west
okay.
of that is
What
what they feel
zones
that
do
how
we
many
want?
acres it is.
to allow it, and where's the depot? Is that in,
That's a different problem. The depot's B1.
There's some downtown.
It's not, it needs to be fixed.
okay.
See, with this ordinance, the only place that would be allowed would be the B2 district or the industrial park. Now, the industrial park, it can't be because it's within the 500-foot radius of school property.
Well, that, just that industrial park, right? I mean, that,
That's the only two.
from a zoning standpoint, there's two things that constrain it. The distance from the school and being in an I-1. I mean, we can have an I-1 pop up on the west side of town.
Right, I'd say that's the two places where we would allow it.
Right, that's what I'm
Not
saying.
good, yeah.
Which
So-
land's there?
We can allow it in I-1,
Tell you.
you know, they probably can't go in over here because it's
Push on
just,
that property.
Right.
Didn't come up. At the bottom there.
That was
B2 and I-1
Gates.
would be the two
11 acres.
places that we would allow that to go in, at least.
But see, what we run into is that B2 picks up the pit stop
Is that where
and
you?
runs out of town that way, that's B2.
Yeah.
Well,
If we put it in B2, that's
Yeah.
part of B2 going out
that's off
that,
Bell Street.
right out of town.
That's off Bell Street.
Okay.
Essentially,
Behind Allen Franklin.
most of River Street.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, pretty much all of River Street is B2.
Infrastructure is over $300,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
No way. So
But that's not
there's-
downtown.
There's only 8 lots there.
Correct.
Okay, that's not the B1, but that would have been where it would have been allowed if this ordinance
Unless the town's got some
would
money.
stand. That could be all the way down River Street, or what we were thinking is that new field out on 49 South where they want to develop, it could be allowed out here, which
I didn't realize
That's-
Washington was gonna come into.
they all got
the
thrown into B2.
And then another one, Church Street. Church Street's behind
Yeah, I think churches.
Canal, same thing.
Yeah,
It's
see that
just a big
River
circle there.
Street, you
It's
got
not even showed on.
churches right there, Presbyterian Church going out 500 feet, and then you got the ballpark over here, which, and they gotta stay away from parks, churches, and schools, 500-foot radius. But I don't think see, that's where the depot fell into it being all right, because it's out past 500 foot from Presbyterian Church. It's not the Lutheran
But
Church.
that's already defined at the state level for those guys to operate.
Yeah, they've been okay.
We don't
they're
need to
ready
build
go.
that into our stuff.
Right.
But on what we're working on now, the B2 area, it includes not downtown, but the street in town.
Okay, so all we really need to do is figure out where we want to put it within the businesses and related uses. In our table. And give it some nomenclature that everyone agrees to. So we already kind of agreed to that it's, what did you call it? Medicinal? Not medicinal.
Right up
Restriction
here.
area of the medical marijuana.
Medical
and recreational marijuana. facilities.
Recreational and medical marijuana.
And I would think the facilities would include somebody, a grower, that would be considered as a facility that's growing inside those areas. So I think that word would include that part of it. I'm not a lawyer, maybe they can go around it.
So we could use dispensary. Is this, on this code, it says certificate of operation to operate a dispensary, which would probably exclude cultivating. Recreational marijuana, medical or recreational marijuana dispensary
Dispensary,
instead
yeah.
of facility.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, then.
We're probably gonna have to touch on that cultivating at some point, right? Needs to be in there somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah, we find,
At some point,
so they're not growing it in.
Well, I doubt they're gonna do like a typical cultivation outdoors in the village.
but indoor,
Right, they're
Are we gonna allow
they're gonna put it in a
indoors?
closet like guys do in college.
right?
No, you're allowed to grow 6 plants.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so, it's like, okay.
But,
So you're
like,
But do
closet,
we want that,
and that's your business?
or do we need it in somewhere? I don't know. I would rather not be grown.
Yeah.
I don't think
Sure.
we need to
So-
be
the
growing it.
state's gonna have some regulations on how close it could be to corporation limits or what.
But you're
I don't
saying
know.
Michigan, they do it,
Yeah, they do it right in town,
right?
right inside Coldwater.
So
This is,
are you guys saying like the depot out there, they could build a second story on it and they could grow
Grow.
marijuana?
Well, that's what we gotta decide whether we wanna let them do that, I guess.
It doesn't have a second story.
No.
No.
No. Theoretically, once they own
They
the property,
could,
they
yeah.
put a
Well,
greenhouse
that's
out
what I
there.
mean. Right now, they could do that.
Right. Yeah, they'd have enough land, they could put a greenhouse out there.
yeah, I don't know, there again, I'm not a lawyer, but whether they would need a separate license
They do
to have it
through the
be a
state.
grower, and whether they'd have to achieve one through the village first to get that, I don't know the.
But we gotta have
laws
something in place before they,
before it gets to that.
right,
There's like 2 different dispensary licenses, and then there's a couple different growing licenses. That doesn't necessarily mean they couldn't obtain both of them,
Yeah,
but
well, we could put the
Well, but
dispensary under one bracket, and then we could go into, say, the agriculture area and say, no growing inside corporation limits, and you'd cover.
yeah.
You'd cover any place here inside corporation limits. So you wouldn't have a.
we'll have to specify.
I don't know that we need to say what you can't do. we're saying what's allowed, right? So a dispensary is allowed. And if there's a separate state permitting stuff for cultivation.
True. It's not
then-
already
and
under.
it's not under,
Right.
we don't allow cultivation. So I think
Yeah.
just by
I think
doing it
we're-
in that way, I think we've already taken care of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because if they want to apply for agricultural, whatever, it's not in there.
Right.
And it's not zoned for downtown anyway. Right?
Right.
Even if they
That's
wanted
what's
to
good.
grow above the depot.
It's not allowed because we haven't allowed it in
Right.
as an acceptable practice. Just dispensaries allowed.
Yeah, if we pass it now before it happened,
Right.
they couldn't do it as an afterthought.
So the other thing that I've noticed that is not in our list of businesses, not that we need to take any exception to it, is there's nothing about bars or alcohol sales. Unless I'm missing it.
That's state license though.
No, but I'm just saying, as far as what is allowed in what areas, we've got this table that goes to fairly explicit detail on certain things. And completely omits, 3 or 4 businesses that are already operating in the town.
Well, and if you're gonna modify it, it might be a good time to modify other things because, like, photography, you're not allowed to
Are
have in
you
your house.
rethinking working for us? Getting ready to run?
No.
Let's see, restaurant, let's see, bar.
No restaurants even on there?
How did we go all this time without realizing that?
Well, some of that we didn't try to
Am I reading past it?
define to the.
I just
but you
searched
had
bar
big-
through the whole code and it doesn't have anything.
What about restaurant?
Have you ever tried to restrict them? Because
Nothing.
they're downtown, they were out at Park Station at one time. And you had that little
Third base
Buns,
cafe.
yeah, Buns Dairy Queen out there years ago. So, yeah, they've been all over town.
Pat, do you want a restaurant popping up back in your neighborhood? I mean, to be the devil's advocate, it's like, if we have no restriction, I don't know.
Doesn't even say where we can put
Matt
it.
decides he's tired of working at home lumber, he's gonna make his house into a restaurant.
I do know the county has stipulations on getting a food service license.
And where?
I can't remember, there's an application, because I did it. I own the snow cone in Charlo. The county has, and I can check with them, but I don't think the county would say, yeah, you can get a food service license in your residential neighborhood. But, not saying we shouldn't address it in ours.
Yeah, I don't think we should rely on that.
It's gotta be in there.
It's- yeah.
Eventually, it doesn't have to be today, but
Well, if we're gonna.
If we're gonna do this one, we might as well do a few at the same time.
In order to add the dispensary to this, do we have to
We'll create a new bracket.
vote on it, or how do we?
Well, we just kind of come up with a consensus, what everybody wants, and then next month we'll vote on it. Actually,
Okay.
approve it.
So I'll put
The way
something
we've done
together.
this historically is we kind of take this document in edit mode,
Okay.
right? And insert new
Okay.
additions, show the strike-throughs, bring it to the meeting, then we vote on it, right? And then it's ready to go to the next step.
Okay, so for next meeting, I can type something, I can edit that and put it in there like we talked about, labeled dispensary.
All right, so if we're talking about, do we want to add 2 more? So we have, what, restaurants?
we don't have to
We've identified.
have a public meeting
and
over that.
then-
Mhm.
So we can't
Do we want to
So when we vote on it, is it
We'll
done?
vote on it to put it wherever we'd like it.
Okay, well, then when it
and
goes to
then we-
council,
Then we present it to council.
okay,
And that is considered the first reading.
Right.
Then council said, okay, now we need the public hearing because of zoning changes. So then it's run in the paper for 3 consecutive weeks. And I talked to Kevin Hornish on the cost, and he said the cheapest cost he's had as far as running a public notice like that is $50. And they can't run it for $75.
so each time,
So it's better.
$150?
No, that's for the 3 runs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what, but that's, then once they have the public hearing, if nobody comes in to contest it, we say we didn't have, but if somebody comes in, they've got a lot of concerns, we listen to them, and then we can go back to council and say, okay, this is what we kind of had, this is our consensus, and, you know, we maybe did messed up here, we'd like to see this changed or whatever. That way we can go through the process of being altered and adjusted, so
To
we're
get
not
it in,
making
yeah.
decisions that the townspeople don't have any input on.
That's what I was wondering.
So we draft our proposal, bring it to next meeting, approve it, and then it goes to council.
Correct.
And that's where it gets
Goes to
changed,
public here.
and then it goes into there.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we want to add 3 separate line items, or we want to introduce restaurants
I'd
and,
say as good as any.
Restaurant and what, bar?
well, I don't know, do we want to, how do we want to phrase that?
We're gonna have those 2 separate, because there is gonna be some that can't get the
Well, we got to put them in a category, right?
bar license, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, but that's
Liquor
separate,
license.
right? So it's a matter of where are we going to allow them, right? So
Okay.
I think they're going to be allowed in the same places, B1 and B2.
What about downtown?
That's
B1.
That's
Oh,
one,
okay.
Yeah, we have a bar downtown.
Right? I mean, we don't want them in the trailer park. We don't want them in that neighborhood. We don't want it next door to Bryce. So we could allow it in I-1, but
I have the dispensary though, B2 and I1.
correct.
Right, okay.
So
But
we-
not B1.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we
So,
have-
I mean, the restaurants and
VFW
bars-
is in I-1, so.
Restaurants and bars, we could allow it in I-1. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt anything.
B2, B1,
It's I-2
I1.
actually. I-1 is the industrial park, I-2 is the agricultural.
Okay, so it could be I-1 and I-2.
So B1, B2, I1, and I2
Yeah.
for restaurant.
For restaurants and bars. And then, do we need to give any consideration to alcohol sales?
Like,
Like
Carry out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happened in
well,
the gas stations, I don't,
I would say the same thing. They're in the same zones,
Same zones as that.
I-1 and I-2. Or I-2, B2, and
I mean, the only place that's probably gonna be carry-out only would be the carry-outs. You know, I don't think a state liquor store is gonna be trying to come in. Good, I guess, I don't know.
We lost our state liquor store in Paulding.
Moved to the-
Cheese.
Oh, that's right. But that's only, I had looked into it at one time, that you only gotta be so far from that one to be able to have one here, because I thought about it in my building down there. So I was within the distance that I had to be outside of to be able to bring in a state liquor store.
Well, you pretty good. So, we'll add bar, restaurant, B1, B2, I1, I2. Carry out, do we wanna mess with that?
I don't think we need to. It's kind of already defined within convenience stores in here.
Okay, so yeah, I would say
I
then,
mean, if we want to put parenthetical, you know, including beer and wine sales, I don't care. We've already got a space in here for convenience stores.
right, so if we have a space for convenience stores, then that's up to the state whether they get a
Correct.
liquor license or not, right?
Right.
So I would say we start with bar, restaurant, and dispensary.
Yeah, those are really, I still think it's funny that all these years we've never
Never
had
been
a
in
restaurant in our list.
Because I mean, one, you
They're not
know,
allowed.
an empty downtown building would be somewhere we would want a restaurant to go in, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll draft some of that stuff up, hopefully
Okay.
for our next meeting.
Hey, we got some accomplished.
All right.
All right.
We'll move on.
That was painful.
Keep digging and find more that we have to change.
Okay, so we can put that to rest until next month, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda, I don't know how late we want to go here, folks, tonight, but let's just touch base with our permit fees. So Matt had found some pricing schedules from Payne, Paulding, and Cecil. And Bill, I had in my notes that you were gonna look into something and I don't recall what it was.
Yeah, I looked into the hearing that we had.
Yes,
And as far as
the costs.
paralegal,
Right.
and when I talked to Kevin, he said it must have been pro bono because he has no records of any fees being charged for that. So he had no idea what it would cost.
The different ones, Paulding, Cecil.
So that was the response, but I called
Paulding, Cecil, and Payne.
Brian Davis first, and he said, why don't you just go ahead and get ahold of Kevin and go that route, because he's the one that had the paperwork. So we went back into the archives and found out what day that hearing was. And I contacted him and said, this was the day the hearing was, I don't know, can you give me any fees that were charged? And he said he had no record of anybody charging anything. So
From the solicitor or,
Yeah, the paralegal.
what is it, paralegal
It
to,
was
Notary.
Notary, yeah.
notary.
so we get 20 hours, is that right, for our attorney?
Yeah, per month.
What happens if he's over that?
It's a set fee, and I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's so much an hour for any time over that.
So we just figure no fees on that, on those two people?
Well, what my understanding was that we didn't actually have to have the attorney there as long as we had
Correct.
to document any testimony,
Yep.
because from that point on, then it goes in the common pleas court. So you don't really need an attorney unless whoever's filed has their own attorney, but the village doesn't really need one because we're not trying anybody, or we're not making any.
Especially for videotaping, something
Yeah.
like that, right? And you have a notary public taking minutes. I mean, yeah, you don't need legal counsel.
That would be a step that. So, yeah, I would say, and I don't know what, we had originally, it had went to council for $500, and the council felt that that fee was excessive. And one of the members said that the fee couldn't exceed the fine, because then the judge was saying that it wasn't excessive over and above. So, then we talked, well, maybe 300, and it's kind of, because when that happens, we gotta put it in the paper, it's gotta have 3 notices before the hearing. And if this involves somebody that's next to them, then they have to be sent a certified mail letter that this proceeding is taking place.
That's for an appeal?
Appeals.
Appeals,
You're talking
okay.
about appeals.
Zoning appeals.
What is, and so we have no charge for appeals right now?
It's in here, the filing fees for appeals is $60.
$60, yeah.
And so
But we don't have any actual cost. Is that,
Well, we
correct?
have the mailing cost as far as, or the newspaper ads. And then we can't guarantee that each time this happens, we're gonna get it for free. You know, that gal was nice enough that time to do it, but that was the first in, I don't know how many years that's ever happened.
and that was for an appeal?
Yeah, it was for, originally it started out.
Ours
as-
are right
what-
now.
What was the first filing on it, Bryce? You remember? It wasn't, it was
That
a
was-
zoning violation. And then they appealed the decision that the zoning board had, so then they come back and that's when the second hearing happened. That's when it proceeded on in the common pleas court from there.
Those were pre-2000, right?
Yes.
What we have now, and that's, we're going through those and trying to figure out where we want to be. or need to be, I guess.
So that's why we got all this here to help us all as far as what other towns charge. It looks to me like Pauline has an application fee, then a permit fee. Is that the way I understand this? So the $50 is actually a $65 charge for a main building application. And you have for a room addition, it was $75 for a single family, and it's $125 for a multi-family house permit. See, ours is set up on square footage, isn't it?
It says square footage or $25, whichever one's greater. Which says 5 cents per square feet.
It's pretty cheap. You see
So
a square
that's-
foot house, $75.
Yeah. I mean, the yeah, I mean, what's this pain? So pain is like what, 100 just to do the board.
There are one or two base businesses. That'd be for a business application, wouldn't it? They don't actually charge for the,
I think he's looking at the appeals,
oh,
the cost for an appeal.
Appeal the board, zoning appeals, each $100. I didn't see one in
Paulding doesn't even have it.
Yeah, I didn't see one in Paulding.
Oh, application to appeal to board.
Oh.
Same, it's in the variances.
Okay. Oh, I didn't see that. $100.
100, yeah. So I mean, Payne's 100, Paulding's 100.
And we were 60. Cecil was,
I think you're 100.
We were at 60, and the last discussion we had was
500.
to double it. Okay?
Oh,
So,
yes.
so that make it 120.
yeah, because who knows the last time these were updated? Well, this is 2017.
Oh, this one, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, theirs is dated.
About as bad as we are, or a little worse maybe. So yeah, I would say the doubling.
They're within 10 years at least. We're 25. Payne doesn't have a date, and neither does Cecil.
I would think, I mean, geez, for 25 years, I mean, you could easily justify doubling it.
Well, that's kind of how we.
I mean,
looked at it.
instead of trying to,
So we, the two things was, let's look at the cost of an appeal and see if we need to make that a
Right.
bigger.
Yeah,
And then,
The original 500 we thought we had to have an attorney plus to have
we thought we were gonna
Somewhat.
have a huge amount of accumulated
Right.
cost.
but we're not, correct?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would say probably the 120 and just double about everything that's there, the way it looks. And,
Other than the rezoning
Yeah.
application.
yeah.
I don't know why that one jumps out so high.
I would agree. So,
Because the village is gonna have to pay itself $250 to rezone that train station.
Redraw a map. And I think that's what that fee is on there for.
Move it from the left pocket to the right.
Yeah, originally that's why that fee is there, because of redrawing the map every time something got rezoned.
so to double it, do we need to vote? Does it need to go to council?
Well, we can
Make a
discuss, yeah, this is
recommendation.
what we'd like to do, but we can't vote tonight. Next month we can.
Okay.
Yeah, all we do tonight is discuss about getting ourselves in hot
Yeah, so
water.
where we left this table last time was we needed to add a line for sign permit.
Okay.
and we agreed just, preemptively double everything, but now after thinking about rezoning, I say we double everything except,
Except for, yeah.
right, leave rezoning at 250.
Yeah, that's plenty high enough.
And double everything, including the, 5 cents becomes 10 cents.
Right.
It's just a flat out double across.
How much was the sign fee?
50.
Okay.
And I think that leaves us relatively consistent with
Yeah.
our neighbors.
Yeah.
Everybody's just a little bit wiggly from there, but
And they haven't updated theirs recently, so.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and,
some of these things in Paulding are a little pricey, I don't know.
so are we all in consensus to just double, except for rezoning?
Well, we can't vote tonight.
Right, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, if you could draw it back up or write it in, so next,
yep.
So what are we doing the appeals at?
120.
120?
Mhm.
And we're pretty sure that we're not gonna get those extra fees on there.
Unless there's something extraneous going on legalistically, within the village, it just happens to hit that month. Generally speaking, we're well within our 20 hours, right, Jan?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not consuming that much legal
I
time.
don't think so.
Right, so
I mean,
So we should be good.
yeah.
Or,
And
We
that
don't have-
activity really only takes about less than an hour,
yeah.
generally speaking. So,
I would imagine at whatever instance it would go further than that. You said it winds up in court,
yeah,
then-
please.
and then I'm sure the attorney fees are getting put on somebody at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so mobile homes,
what time is it? 6:20. We wanna keep on going into this? Or-
I think we'd at least touch on it.
Okay. We had the ordinance for the mobile homes, 2024-11. No, it's 2024-05. Yeah, sorry about that. And what it was, basically was set up to where if the property changed hands as far as ownership, it was an automatic, the trailer had to be moved. And we got quite a bit of feedback from that, a lot
well,
of.
I think we caused a lot of panic by using the word trailer, right?
Yes,
So-
yeah, mobile home, trailer, it was pigeonholed in there. I got the stuff for this is the next one. So, I couldn't find anything specific in Defiance or in Lima's zoning laws that did that. But what I did find was that they considered it an unsafe structure. And this covers homes, garages, trailers, anything inside the corporation limits is deemed an unsafe structure. And it breaks it down as specifically what they consider unsafe structures. The structure is vacant, unsecured, unfit for human habitat, unoccupied, and is not in danger of structural collapse. The code officially is authorized to post a postcard or condemnation of the premises and order the structure closed up so as not to be an alternative nuisance. And it goes, I could read down through all this, and it breaks it all down as to the discord, prohibited occupancy. And then they come over here and they define these words as to what each paragraph means. So, and it also is set up to where it gives, I don't call it, there's a zoning inspector, I give them another name. But this gives the verbiage in here to where you would be able to enter if you receive a complaint, you're allowed to enter the premises without a search warrant to verify whether it is or isn't
Inhabitable.
inhabitable. And it's structured in here to where you have, I think it goes through the mayor has to approve it, and then it goes, so you're not on your own.
Right.
There's other
There's procedure.
backups, but you don't have to go through the courts to get, a warrant to go onto the property. It's actually built into this verbiage
Can't
here.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Just
Tough to
because
make
you-
that one hold water, wasn't it, Matt?
I'm not letting you in my house.
Yeah,
You know,
and I'm not really trying to get into somebody's house that's
Right.
not letting me in.
right.
You'd
I
have George next to you.
I think we're opening up a can of worms when we start doing that.
Yeah, but that's the way this is rolled up.
No, I agree.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. but
Right, I think we would run into some issues there.
So
Maybe it says unoccupied, because the courts have given exceptions.
Then you're breaking in to get into probably
Right.
something that's unoccupied.
So, yeah, it could be a can of.
I do think that's a decent way to approach it.
Yes, I
Right,
do
so,
too.
So what we're trying to do is make sure that we remove blight from the village, right? And so, you know, the land bank does that, you know, as buildings become abandoned, deteriorated, whatever. And we need a mechanism to do that within our own community. So, you know, it's kind of taking that nuisance property to the next level of, you know, you've exceeded nuisance.
Well, I
We
think,
have a real
I think it's
problem.
like Daniel said, if we go through these and say, okay, yeah, we like this, and these conditions exist, then the next step would be to send them to court. Or to the district
Right.
attorney, and go that route, to where the village isn't, you know,
Right.
we don't have a legal
Right.
background or a.
Right.
Who deems that and he's not driving around Antwerp looking for these places? Just hearsay?
Well, I think I would have to, I think you would have to have some pretty substantial,
Right.
Yeah,
evidence that, okay.
And then who enforces it? George? I mean,
well, see, this is, according to this, if there's a complaint filed, that's what it activates.
Right. That's what initiates the process.
That initiates process. They would be the mayor, and she would get with the zoning inspector if they both agree. According to this is conducted from the street. If it's visible outside, they can't go in your house and say, shit, your toilet's gone, you know, we gotta, this has to be a structural visual from the outside, so you're
Right.
not going into somebody's
Right.
property illegally.
Right.
That's what this ordinance is designed for, is to keep eyesores and.
right.
Bill, have you got like a digital copy of that we can share?
Yeah, I got
with
it
the
at
group?
home, I can,
Is that something we
Yeah,
can
when
see?
you get a
Yeah.
chance,
there were so many pages, I didn't wanna run off
Right.
yeah,
five copies.
throw that out on that email thread so we all have a chance to chew on it a little bit.
Seems like this is pretty specific towards mobile homes.
Yeah, and that's what, we had a lot of people that were upset about it, and I don't blame them, you know, we've got some mobile homes that are in nice shape that I don't know.
Well, and we have some that are on permanent foundations, right?
Right.
Those are fine. I mean, it's not allowed anymore, but those are fine. And, you know, if people are gonna take care of them, great. But we've got some that were put here in the 50s that are sitting on blocks. They're in kind of bad shape.
Yeah.
I got one down from me
You know,
that they
and at
removed.
some point, they may have already exceeded, you know, what we call a nuisance, and they may be already in this category of, hey, we've gotta take the next step.
Yeah, that's what, I think, we have to have specific verbiage that if you've got windows
Right.
missing, the
Yeah.
doors missing, the roof is,
Caving in.
yeah, all that's covered in here as far as what they consider a damaged structure.
Right. Well, the same, I think you mentioned, is this same ordinance that describes like post-fire damage?
Yeah.
Is that in there too?
Yep.
I mean, that's something I'm sure we don't cover currently, but that's something that hadn't thought about until you mentioned that. It's like, that's in that same category. If you're beyond nuisance, if that house is burned down and you're not able to get it rebuilt, you can't just leave it.
Yeah, well, you know, we had that house fire here a few years ago across from the Catholic Church, and they've got it cleaned up now.
Right.
But there was nothing saying it couldn't still be there
Right.
in that condition, because there's nothing in there, or nothing in our ordinances that said you
It
can't.
says it has to be gone, right? So, yeah, I like that.
So, and I thought, you know, since this is a city, I'm sure they've got a better legal team than four guys, five people sitting around the table trying to dream up the right verbiage
Right.
to make it legal.
I know that Wasion, when I was doing theirs, had nuisance code written for dilapidated buildings, that kind of thing, that encompassed kind of the whole city. I mean, we don't really want to specifically target mobile homes.
No, I don't.
We want it to encompass everything.
Any structure
Yes,
that
right.
is not necessarily mobile home, somebody's garage or
Yeah.
the old car wash out there, you know, anything that's been in disarray or just for years dilapidated, it needs to have some sort of a tool for us to be able to work with it.
That's already in there on the mobile homes, that they can't come back in though, right?
You can't drag a new mobile home and put it
Right.
into an R1 or R2,
Yeah, that's in
only into the
That's
trailer
already-
parks.
Right, that's already,
And it's in the original zoning from 1990 something.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, once it's been
76, I think.
Well, it was, that's what it was. I know it's been quite a while, it's been,
I think subdivision went in 95. That's a separate packet.
Only place you can move another trailer, take one out and move one in is the trailer courts.
And those are zoned what?
Oh, R1A.
R1A, that's what it is.
I can look into that, and I was trying to see if they had a digital copy.
I was gonna say, if Wasean has a digital copy, yeah, flag that out on that email chain
Yeah,
too. And
because we had like door hangers that I would like if a building had, you know, for instance, I remember there was a downtown building that was, you know, somebody had broke a couple windows in it and put graffiti on the door. You know, that was in the code to where we were able to go out and say, you need to fix, you know, so you need to secure the building, get rid of the graffiti, you know, and, you know, same thing with houses. There was a handful, you know, one that had a hole in the roof, you know, and it was dilapidated and that, and so we were able to, you know, flag it, go through the process, you know, which I think included, you know, a certified letter and, you know, that kind of thing, and then after they don't comply, then you just send it to the court.
yeah, that's what this had there, something about, you had to send them certified letters.
Yeah,
Had to be sent to the landowner, had to be sent to the occupancy of the trailer, piece of the rental
Yeah.
or the building, not a say trailer.
so I can look into that and forward that out.
Yes, give us something to look at along with what you have.
Yeah, because I don't, yeah, this seems pretty extreme, I guess, but,
Is that the one on just the mobile
yeah,
homes?
yeah,
well, and here again, it's sitting outside of our operating ordinances, and it's like, I'm reluctant, we can do that as a stopgap measure, but ultimately, you know, when we do those kind of things from a council standpoint, we've got to find a way to get it integrated back into the public documents that are readily available, just so that nobody else is getting their
right.
tangled. So,
So we're gonna look at that for next month as well, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I'll forward this stuff to you guys on the,
You know, and that would be something too, that once we have it set in stone, it would be worth sending to the fire department, the police department, you know, people that are going into these homes, if you're, you know, as a,
If you see something.
you know, you're kind of a mandatory reporter, if you are, you know, go into a house that's completely disgusting and you're like, wow, you have kids living here, you know, that would be something to where they could, obviously they would report it to CPS, you would hope, but, you know, that's how, a way that can keep some accountability, I guess.
I don't know if I post on the deputy thing or not, but in that notification, there should be a deadline. We've dealt with this old car wash, and they tell them, you gotta get it fixed up or tear it down. Well, I'm gonna fix it up, and they need to have a period of time to find that up until such a date to do it or it's coming down.
Yep. Yeah, I would think that,
You guys can hurry up.
When was the last time that was talked about, as far as,
It's,
Off and on over the last 4
yeah,
years.
yeah.
the car wash?
I know a year ago, I got them some water in there so they could, I thought it was maybe sold or something.
It looks good from the road compared to what it looks like.
Yes,
on the
it's
back.
bad.
That's falling in.
Mhm.
And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Kids would get in there,
Yeah.
and then
well,
kids get in.
it's cinder block building.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't Tim talk to him about turning it over so it could be torn down and he refused?
He's talked to it, so I'll turn it down and put it
Yeah.
in there. And that's why I'm saying, okay, fine for a business, but it's gotta be there by 7:00.
Who's the, is it a local person that owns it?
Yeah, he's living in Fort Wayne now.
Okay.
The time frame thing, you were talking about fire stuff, that takes a long time to get through the, you know, so you gotta have some.
Yeah, I mean, none of these things need to be
leniency.
30 days, right? I mean, some
Right,
of these are, you know,
because
90 days minimum,
insurance-
120, 180.
It's one thing
It's,
of a fire.
Right.
Nobody wants a fire.
Right.
And that's, if it's negligence, that's one thing.
Right.
If it's
Right.
an emergency, you have to go.
So we might have to have a different date or time frame on a fire compared to
Circumstances.
And you
nuisance type deal, right?
You could put, you know, in that instance, you know, your time frame starts once it's been cleared from the insurance company or the fire department, you know.
well, and you have different categories of risk, right? So if there's enough structural
Right.
damage
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the residents that it's a problem, then you've got a shorter period of time than just one that has cosmetic damage.
when there are complete like losses as fires, what's typically, do they stay until, do they sit until?
Till the owner gets ready to take care of it, yeah, because we have no vehicle or no verbiage to
A
say.
lot of that depends on the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even if the insurance pays for it, you know, if it's a total loss, I don't think they're required to tear it down in any time frame that I know of.
Okay.
But we need to probably put something on there like you were saying.
Well,
Yeah.
that might be
That's part
something
of what
that
we
we
just-
talked to the fire department about, because back in, when I was on, you know, Vassian, Delta, Napoleon, if we had a complete loss, sometimes the fire chief's on the phone saying, bring me an excavator, you know, and they're tearing it down that night while it's still smoldering. You know, but then you got a big pile on the ground, but still, at least you're, at least.
Partway there.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to touch on the last one?
No. I'm not interested in that one particularly. I mean, that's just kind of a hornet's nest a little bit, so, you know, that, I understand what we're trying to accomplish, but I'm not sure how we're gonna get there.
What I guess, what are we trying to accomplish?
Keeping the downtown buildings here from making a two-family dwelling, is that right?
We have a few houses that have sold with that intention, making them,
Of
Duplex.
tearing them down and building a duplex?
No.
just
Leaving-
remodeling and making it
Turning it from a single family into,
two
Duplexes,
apartments or whatever,
triplexes.
yeah.
and they're zoned residentially?
Mhm.
Which,
So-
Where does that happen that it's zoned to R1?
It hasn't yet, but that's what they're trying to stop it from. See, right now, they're doing it in the B2 district.
B2 allows multiple occupancy up to 4 units, right?
But it
Is that
doesn't, it's supposed to be rebuilt for that because the existing water and sewer is not set up for multifamily.
that's what it says in our zoning right now, currently.
It's not, to the best of my knowledge, it's not in, there's nothing in there that says,
We don't qualify multifamily.
but, you know, it should be a
I know what
6-inch
you're
line
saying.
instead of a 4-inch sewer line.
That,
and-
that was just part of our discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's multifamily allowed right now? What zone?
B2,
That's B2? And that's like,
And R2.
Be like beside the Shell station.
yes, but
Isn't R2
Foley's
multifamily?
addition down there at
I'm
the
not
front
positive
is
on that. No,
B2.
I think R2 allows
Always
4
In
units
his
per-
addition, on the right-hand side, those condos, is that considered
Oh.
B2?
Oh.
Where all is that accepted now? And those were new homes, or new,
let's see.
so we're trying to get, or the conversion of residences to multifamily. So wouldn't they just go to a board and apply for rezoning and then get shot down?
No, they would just do it. I think, right, but
That's the way it's
Well,
been.
our
Yeah.
our existing ordinance we have now, section 902, conversion of dwellings to more units. A resident may not be converted to accommodate an increased number of dwelling units unless, and then it's got specifications down here of what's acceptable. Yard dimensions still meet the yard dimensions required by the zoning regulations for new construction in that district. A lot area per family equals a lot area requirements for new structures in that district. The conversion is in compliance with all other relevant codes and ordinances. So now it depends on where they're doing it, according to this.
That's in our zoning stuff.
That's in the zoning book right now. Section 902,
so what?
page 70 in the book.
So you guys had already started to craft ordinance for this?
That's in there.
Page.
No, what I'm saying
Bill,
is
what page did you say?
It's
a
page
draft
70.
ordinance had already started to get worked on or not?
Yeah, the ordinance that started to be worked on, it started out as 2024-12, and then the village solicitor looked at it and said, well, that wasn't gonna fly because it didn't have anything in there about who was going to enforce it. So he rewrote the ordinance, now it's 22X.
Okay, so what
Where it's at right now, that's the ordinance.
is in that document that we're not covering already in the zoning?
Let's see, trees, also taking notice.
Are we hitting the, I guess all I'm saying, are we hitting the panic button for no
What
reason?
page is that?
Page 70.
Page 70.
Is where it's already in our ordinance. It's under section 902. Is the conversion. of-
Okay. The conversion is in all compliance with other relevant codes, so if it's not zoned for it,
Yeah,
right?
but it's allowed in R2 and B2.
Is that what we're trying to?
Multifamily is R2 and B2.
Right.
Is that what the problem is?
No, I don't know what.
With this ordinance, what you're
initiated.
doing
Oh,
is section 2, all homes or residences in the village of Antwerp constructed originally as double or duplex family homes prior to the enactment of this ordinance shall not be permitted to be converted into units of more than 2 family dwellings. So basically what they want to do, if it's already a single family home, they don't want them to be able to convert it into duplexes and triplexes, but they're trying to stop.
but I don't think they can if it's not zoned that way, right?
Well, that's what this ordinance was trying to do, is just stop it with whether it was zoned that way or not. They just didn't want any homes converted. The chief of police was the one that originated this, because he said that Paulding's having issues with it out there by the hospital, that stretch going into town. I don't know what, can't remember that name of that street, but they converted a lot of homes along there into multi-family homes.
And it's zoned as residential?
Well, no, but they have, he said they had issues with, problems with police calls for domestic violence and other situations because of being rental. And he's afraid it would reduce the property value of somebody living next to him. If all of a sudden you've got a rental house that's got 3 apartments in it right next door to you, your house now all of a sudden isn't worth as much because you've got the unit like that next door with. So that was the reason for this to be started.
So I'm assuming they're doing that in a residential area that doesn't allow for,
That I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
because if,
I don't know how Paulding's zoned, I don't know.
Yep. So let me get back to my original question. Are we creating work unnecessarily?
Well,
I don't think we have a problem to solve, is I guess all I'm getting at.
Well, what Gabe said, now, that he didn't think this was a problem because of the setback issues. It's already established in our zoning laws that the only places that would actually be able to have it is on River Street, where the home's set back far enough from the street, because in a new construction triplex, and I'll tell you what I got it, they have to have a 60-foot setback, I think.
Well, Main Street is R2 as well, so
Yeah, let's see.
pretty much every place on Main Street, which we already have apartments and
Yeah.
multifamilies out there anyway, so. But all those homes have pretty big
This
setbacks.
says, yard
Big
requirements for multifamily dwellings. Multifamily dwellings shall be considered as one building for the purpose of determining front, side, rear yard requirements. The entire purpose of determining front, side, rear yard, prior group as a unit shall require one front, one rear, and two sides yards as specified for dwellings in the appropriate district. Each individual building shall meet all yard requirements for the appropriate district as though it were on an individual lot. So it depends on where they want to put it, and what the yard requirements are. Let's see.
I don't think we have a problem.
But currently our residential zoning does not allow for multifamily, is that correct?
So we got two levels of residential, R1 and R2. R2 is multifamily,
Okay.
up to 4 units.
Okay, it says here multifamily district.
And our,
The yard requirements are 55
For
foot for
structures.
single family detached, 55 foot for two family dwelling, and 65 foot for apartment building.
and that's all down, R2 is all down Main Street.
And on River Street.
Both ways on River Street and all down,
Yeah.
that's all R2.
And it kind of carves around in some weird
River
places,
Street
not by the school is
is
R2.
From pit stop, pit stop going west is all B2 on River Street, on the north side. Right?
So we have to allow it in those areas.
Why can't? I think the problem here is where you're allowed to put a four-family lot, you can build a structure to do that. But if the house is originally designed for a single family, you can't convert it for a four-family because it's not made for it. The plumbing and the water is just won't handle it. And I think the question is, can you convert a house that's already been built for a single family into a multi-family dwelling?
That's what George wants to put
Yeah,
in.
Right.
That's the question.
That's,
I guess I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess
I'd have to think
We
about
don't
it
try
a
to
little
manage
more,
people's plumbing or heating or electrical now, so. I don't know.
Most
how
of
we're
them
gonna-
require a second meter, and that I've dealt with. I had one over in Paulding, and then I've been looking at some in Fort Wayne. They got separate electric meters, separate
I would.
water meters.
Do we have a problem in the current R2 zoning of multifamilies?
There's some, I think. Is there?
problems like what?
Oh, problems.
Yeah, whatever this,
We're trying to avoid the problem, I think.
Yeah,
right?
George.
we don't
So
have that
do we
many
have a mechanism
multi.
to avoid the problem or not? I guess that's where I'm at.
If it's zoned R2, they can do up to 4 units. If it's not zoned R2, they can't, right?
But you have to,
It has to be a new build.
you have to meet the requirements of this 902 section we just read.
Yeah, it's a yard
May
setback.
not be converted unless the yard dimensions still meet the yard dimensions required, and
Right.
the lot area per family equals lot area. And the conversion is in compliance with all other relevant codes and ordinances.
Sounds like we're just trying to make an ordinance that bans poor people.
Well,
I mean, if we want to be blunt about it.
I'm kind of
I don't know that we're
confused, to
fixing
be honest.
anything
I
if
don't
we
think
do anything. I don't know what we would do.
Yeah,
I mean, I would think if somebody owns a lot in R2 that they want to tear down and build up to 4 units and the code allows for it.
yeah, the tear down part wasn't the problem. It's-
Yeah, what initiated this was taking
Taking
single
existing-
residence dwelling and splitting it into 2 units.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the plumbing, like
Plumbing,
Steve said,
parking.
plumbing, everything is not
But we don't administer a building code, so I don't, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So we're saying if there's a big single-family house, but it's in an R2, we're trying to keep them from subdividing it?
That's what this is.
That's what they're wanting.
I mean,
Though the ones you're talking
Or an
about
R1.
specifically are actually in B2.
Correct.
The ones, and that's. another-
B2 allows for it, right?
Yes, those are two. Both of them do.
So I don't think
You
there's
know,
any issue.
Whether or not the plumbing works the way you want, or the heating systems are segregated by unit,
I mean, I
it's none of our
own
business, I don't know.
like 20 rentals, and if I owned a huge single-family house and it was zoned multifamily and I wanted to turn it into a duplex, I'd tell you to go fly a kite. It's zoned that way, I mean, right? If we're not having somebody in a residential R1
R1,
neighborhood trying to put a mother-in-law suite or whatever it may be, I mean,
I mean,
I don't know
it
that-
would be a separate dwelling, that's part of
True.
the unit, right?
but I mean, I would think that the plumbing and the parking would, yeah.
Dick, did you have a copy of that?
To me, I don't think we have a problem unless we have a problem that is arising within the R1
Right.
stratosphere, and I don't think we do we?
I think we do.
And if somebody catches them doing it, we shut it down.
We should be able to take care of it.
Or they appeal it and it gets shut down either way.
Well, if they're criminal activity, I think you'd send the police there for that.
Right,
That
right.
specific activity.
Yeah. That's,
I don't think it's the housing that causes it.
it's the calls that they're getting from multifamily stuff,
Yeah.
which, again, I don't think that's a code issue. I think that's a
Right.
police department issue.
Are we all in agreement to just kind of
I would
do
table
anything with that?
I would table that. I don't think you're gonna get anywhere with it.
Yeah. Make a motion to table it indefinitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until
agree.
So need a
until
second?
something drives us to do it.
Yep.
We're not allowed to vote tonight. Didn't you already tell us that like 3 times?
Yeah.
I got a little quick one for you.
Yeah,
Down where Steve lives, on Buffalo, it's residential.
okay.
We've got a lady working and selling stuff out of her garage.
Okay.
Tried to shut her down, she's doing it again.
Does she have a vendor's license?
Yeah, I do interrupt again. It's causing a problem with promotion. Buffalo Street is about big enough for one car. And
There's people coming in and out.
Yeah,
And she, we sent her a letter that she can operate a business, number one, if she's in a rental. Number two, she's in our one. And I've had, in the council, I've had 5 different residents on Buffalo Street complaining about it. And so I brought it up. She filed a variance, she went to the variance board and they unanimously said, no, you cannot do that. So she went to George, he said, yeah, I don't see a problem, go ahead and do it. So she's back at it. Now, she's taking clothes and stuff and reselling them. And
she sells about everything, doesn't she? That listed furniture
Furniture
and,
over there, and just last night, she put a article on Facebook that she's got all kinds of boutique stuff, new items coming in, and she said, I live in Antwerp, come and visit me. I don't know how many people are seeing that, but it's like a
So
zoo over there.
she's in an R1.
She's an R1 in a rental, and we have an ordinance you can't have.
Yeah, and she appealed it and it got denied.
You got denied unanimously.
Then I would send it to the prosecutor.
Well, it's not a retail business. This is not a retail business, and they're not parking on the streets. This is a little murky here.
Well, it's a residential area. Residentials are not zoned for, you can have, Antwerp's not trying to eliminate the business.
No.
They're saying she needs to move it because of the street traffic and the parking.
Does it matter if it's retail?
There are people that
Or not?
More power to them. There was some old guy at Christmas says his mom was making candy and was selling for Christmas money. More power. I bought some for him to fight another. We're not knocking people having businesses in their home, but it's just commotion that's being caused and the people are really getting tired of it. No, they're not parking in the street. She stopped that. Yesterday they were. There was cars stopping in the street because they couldn't get the driveway. But,
Does our code define what a business is?
Well, it doesn't define a business, but there's an area in there as far as what, if a business is problems it is creating. I don't know where it's at.
Okay.
Noise nuisance, traffic problems, parking problems. If any of those situations occur, then the person has to move the business. We're not trying to shut them down, but once they get to a point to where it's grown to the point to where it's no longer feasible in
Right.
R1, then.
It's not a lemonade stand.
It's more than the Saturday garage sale.
Yeah.
Right.
now,
Yeah.
in the, used to be, Grace not retail, but she's got a list of things, I talked to her, purses and boutique type stuff that she's now got in there that she's selling. So that's all, I don't know where you draw the line on retail or not, but she's reselling it. A lot of the stuff that people bought to her and then she would sell it, and I don't know how she handled that, but,
Does she
she's selling furniture.
does she have a business name that she's calling it online?
Miller Time Deals.
She applied for a variance is what she had applied for. and so
For
they-
doing it.
to do
Right.
it in that area. And they denied her because they've already gotten complaints on it.
Right. Sounds to me like it's gonna be a issue for the court to decide. Well, you know, I mean, it sounds like the village, if it does state, you know, problem, I mean, first of all, it's in an R1. I mean, yeah, if it's a garage sale, you know, the police chief is staying out of it, won't do anything?
I don't, she went to him and asked after the variance, and he voted no. She went to him and asked him if he could do it, and he said, I don't see a problem with it. So
Wasn't that a mix-up with Gabe, though? Gabe did the paperwork wrong, and all she had to do was take her sign down?
My understanding was we had Gabe sign it, sent her a letter. And he was more conscious, she had a sign up, that she couldn't have a sign up.
Yeah.
Take the sign down. Well, she did, continue to do it.
Who's supposed to enforce if you guys turn it down, the council turns it down, or the zoning appeals?
We can't.
The court, so how does it go to court?
Send it to the prosecutor.
Who
The
does?
village,
If
the
we do.
administrator, the mayor, I mean,
I could send,
I'm
yeah.
sure Daniel could do it, yeah.
That's gotta be the next step then, if she's not
Right, I mean,
complying,
if
right?
somebody doesn't comply, the only thing we can do is send it to the prosecutor.
Yeah.
You know, or fine them, if there's something that specifically states in our code that they can get fines, I mean, you can
Do
fine
you have
them.
anything like that in there, in the code book, finding?
To my knowledge, there's nothing specific to that situation. So,
You know, but that'll, I mean,
you know, I'm not an
if she's
official
gonna,
on it, but.
Right.
if she's gonna die on a hill over it, it's gonna go to court anyway. I mean,
So I think possibly if that's the situation, send her a certified letter, you know, our next step is you're going to send this to the prosecuting attorney in violation of.
yeah, and if the prosecutor
And if
says,
she
you know what?
says, okay, I'm good with it, I'm gonna cease operation or move, I'd like to see her stay in business.
Right, yeah.
In a
Not
place
there.
where it's feasible.
She's got a heck of a bunch of people use it, and good for her, and I'm not against people having business
Right.
in their home. But it's a commotion.
Yeah, I mean, if it's creating traffic problems,
So whose job is it to make that next move?
probably
Well,
not me.
Yeah, because the village already, the appeals board already.
Yeah, if it already went to
So the
appeals,
village has already made their stand on it.
were there people that showed up to the appeals meeting to
Yes.
advocate against this?
Against,
Yep.
nobody came for it.
So that, I mean, if
So
anyone,
your dilemma becomes, you gotta be well prepared before you start initiating the next steps, right? So you gotta have all the background information.
right,
Yeah,
You know,
one neighbor had
Evidence
property
prepared
damage a couple
for
times.
prosecution.
well, and
Mailbox getting.
all we,
Right.
I mean, all we do is go to the prosecutor, say, this is what we got. If he decides, hey, you guys, I'm not gonna pursue it, then they won't pursue it.
Right.
I mean, we can't make
That's
it.
what I'm saying, you gotta hand him.
Right.
Everything he needs to do that.
Right,
Yeah, the neighbors back, four mailboxes and stuff.
Oh, really?
in and out of the driveways.
Yeah, if you go on
In the dark,
to
probably. It's
Antwerp
dark early.
website, top right-hand corner, there's video, you can click on the videos. I believe it's July 6, 2024 was the hearing.
Meeting, yeah.
Oh, it's-
So you can watch the video of the hearing, and that'll give you some background as to the complaints, what the board decided.
So, like, when I was on the appeals board, if they were in violation of the code and anyone showed up to oppose it, the board essentially would always turn it down. You know, if people showed up advocating for this, you know, if somebody wanted a variance on a setback and both neighbors showed up and said, hey, we're fine with this, then we, you know, usually they would approve it. You know, but if people are showing up saying, you know, opposition on it, and, you know, the next step is just to send it to the prosecutor and wash your hands of it.
How costly would that be to the village?
Well, that's a good question. If she wants to, if she wants to fight it, she may. And then, you know, then the village, at that point, does the village want, if you send it there and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, then if the village says, okay, you know what, you're gonna fight it, we don't wanna, then it's just gonna set a precedence or.
Right.
Right.
If you walk away,
You know what I mean?
you walk away from that one,
Throw
you
the
haul
book
it up,
away.
just take that book and throw it in the trash.
Right.
Where does that money come from when you do have to use money to
They'll come out of the village budget.
village budget or the permits or what? I mean,
Well, the permit goes into the general budget.
General fund?
okay, so it come, is that where it
Yeah,
come
there's
from
no
then?
specific spot that this pays for that.
The problem with, from what I'm understanding, is we only have allocated so many hours for an attorney,
Yes.
whereas some of these other cities, like Wasion, has a village
Full-time.
attorney. You know, so it doesn't really matter. He's already getting a salary.
We've got a village attorney, solicitor.
Well,
But we
But
only
he's
pay
not-
for
yeah, we only
up
pay,
to 20
yeah.
hours. So,
Even in this situation, doesn't take that much time to administer something like this.
no. And
well, we could start with him, right?
Here's the
Writing
thing.
a letter.
even if she wanted to fight, it's not like it would go to a jury trial and it would be,
Right.
you know,
No,
it
just
would-
go before you.
right. So I don't think that it would.
Well, probably, I would suggest the first step would be to send her a certified letter notifying her that our next step is to go to the prosecuting attorney if this does not cease operation within so many days, and then give her a chance, you know, because once you go there and he says, yeah, then she's on the hook, you know, it's gonna go around into court.
Right.
Well,
Well,
the appeals was dropped, or it was
shot down.
shot down in July, and now here we are, February, and she's still operating.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to get all the backstory and
Right.
watch the video and
That's what I'm saying. You got to be well prepared.
and
before
look
you start.
and look at what the actual code says. And I mean, that's something that'll probably take a little while to put together. But
I'd agree.
See if we can avoid it going to the district attorney.
and you said that she's a renter.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's real problem.
Is there no retail space in Antwerp
Yes, there
that
is.
we can
That
offer?
was brought up at the field, and she said, I can't afford rent space.
You don't really have a business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I feel sorry for her success.
Right, yeah.
Real quick,
What does she
I
service?
was just gonna say, we're not gonna allow any new business tonight.
oh, okay.
What do you got, Jen? Go ahead.
Well, on our zoning, we have subdivisions, and we have Gary Dunlap, Jeff Hahn, and Joe Reinhardt. Jeff Hahn doesn't even live in town anymore. But to my knowledge, that group has never met.
I didn't even know there was such
I
a
want to
thing.
disband it.
Yes.
Okay, great,
Do we need to make a vote?
done.
No.
My
Well, we get a second though.
Why in the world did you put Matt Horman on anything? That's what I wanna know.
What?
Why in the world did you put Matt Horman on anything?
Because he said yes.
I'm coming after your job next.
Price right.
Yeah. I make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
All in favor, stand up.
Aye.